It's here. We are redefining what it means to sit at the girls' table. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Girls Table, a podcast where founders, creators, and investors share their stories. Today, I'm joined by Jacob Jabber, who is currently the co-founder and chairman of Philz Coffee. Guys, if you haven't been to Philz Coffee yet, I must say you are missing out. Philz Coffee offers a unique blend, community-oriented stores, and one cup at a time approach that have drawn a cult following nationwide. Founded by Phil, who's actually Jacob's dad, with Jacob by his side, the first store opened in the Mission District of San Francisco in 2002. Jacob started running the business at the age of 18 and has since guided Philz to national expansion, opening up more than 70 stores on the East and West Coast. Philz has raised $75 million in venture capital funding, and the once small Bay Area cult coffee shop is becoming a force to be reckoned with in the national coffee scene. Jacob, thanks so much for coming on today. Where is your Philz Coffee?
I had like 3 cups earlier, so I'm pretty caffeinated. I'll have another one in a few hours.
Yeah, I must say.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, it would not be good for me to own a coffee shop because I am a coffee addict, and so I'd probably go like 10 times a day.
It's too easy to drink a lot of coffee, but it's good for you, and it gives you good energy. And I've developed the tolerance for sure.
Oh, me too. I wish I got that like anxiety that coffee sometimes gives people, because now I just don't feel it and could fall asleep on it. But anyway, I want to go back to you. So I'd love if you could give a little bit of background about yourself and actually the origin of Philz Coffee.
Yeah. So my dad is Phil, and when he came to the States, he didn't come with much. So he had to work at a really young age, and he opened up a little bodega, like a convenience store in the Mission District in San Francisco when he was 21, but was always passionate about people, community, coffee, hospitality, bringing people together, and wanted to do something more than the convenience store. I've been in the business since I was 9 years old. When it was a bodega, I used to stand on top of milk crates, ring people up at the register. I couldn't reach it, so I had to stand up on these things. And I would stock inventory. I would talk to customers, and it really taught me a lot. And I started to fall in love with the business because it was really about people and connecting with people and figuring out what they want. So as I was growing up, I never really loved school because I felt like I was forced to learn stuff I wasn't interested in from people who weren't that interesting. So I left at around the age of 17, and I started working full-time with my dad. At that point, it was like 80% bodega, 20% the birth of the coffee business. And we were just working at it together as baristas and working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And we really struggled actually because it was not successful in the early days. And it took many, many years, but we just obsessed over product and customer experience. And over time, it got busier. We opened up a second, a third, a fourth, and now we're on around 75 stores across the nation and growing.
Now, when you first did that first coffee shop, was your goal in the back of your mind to be like, okay, I want to grow this? Or was it slow from the first store to the second to then obviously now growing worldwide?
It was that. It was definitely organic and slow. We didn't know exactly what we were doing, but we knew how to connect with people and create a warm environment and really create a great personalized product. And that really paid off. But it was, customers telling us, hey, you need to open up a store closer to us. We're like, oh, we don't know about that. Eventually we did, and then we split. My dad ran the original store, I ran the second store, and then another, that turned out well. And then people wanted us to open a third store and then a fourth store. So it was really organic. And it was wonderful because it was all bootstrapped, and we really had to earn every single customer. We had to earn the loyalty of our customers because we didn't have a lot of money in the bank. And that's how we grew and opened our next store.
Now, how did you trust the people? Because you went, I guess, take a step back. How many years was it from when you opened up the first coffee shop until you opened up the second one?
That's a great question. It was actually around 5-6 years. It was a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, most people would have gave up by year 3 and be like, okay, this might not be working really well. But we just kept at it. And, I remember one time we used to go outside of the store when it wasn't busy, and there's a little stops or a red light, little intersection, and it's 24th and Folsom. That's the intersection. And when cars stopped, we would knock on the window and be like, hey, you want to try our coffee? Like we were not shy to share what we created because we loved it and we believed in it. And that stuff pays off if you just keep at it over time.
Now, how do you ensure that the quality is like put in each store worldwide? Because you can't be at each one every day. And obviously you had so much control over the coffee in the beginning.
Yep.
So how did you ensure that it hit the standards that you and your dad set?
No one cares like the owner, right? So when it's yours, you're putting your heart and your soul, and every cup matters. So you're exactly right. And that is the biggest challenge, is how do you carry that love in every cup as you continue to grow? And one of the things we got right early on was our intense focus on people and culture, and hiring people who have a predisposition to sharing our values and love hospitality. Because you can teach them how to do the coffee, but it's hard to teach people how to care. So you really have to take your time, A, bring in the right people, B, treat them well and inspire them and hold a really high standard, and C, work together to strengthen that culture and really just focus on the customer. And that's what we did. And I was interviewing every barista up to 400 or 500 employees because I was obsessed about it. And that's how we started growing the recruiting discipline and the quality to make sure we hire the right people. So while it was a lot of work, it was worth it.
And how many employees are there now at Philz?
A little over 1,000.
Wow.
Maybe 1,200, something like that.
And Philz has become such a fixture in the tech world. I mean, you have locations on Facebook campuses and in the heart of Silicon Valley. So how did you build relationships with the tech companies, and what role do they play in the success of Philz?
When we started expanding in the South Bay in Palo Alto, we started getting a lot of great fans and customers who would work at these companies. And that's kind of how that happened. They loved it so much that they were building a new campus and they wanted Philz on campus. And I developed a friendship and relationship with some of them. And, that's how that happened. But I think a lot of our customers were the entrepreneurs, the investors. Like Ryan Hoover of Product Hunt created Product Hunt in one of our stores. The companies got funded in our stores. VCs will have meetings, and it's wonderful because you go into a Philz and it's energy, and there's people working on cool things, and there's movers and shakers, and we love to meet all of our customers and our community, and that's kind of how that's how that happened.
Yeah, so you talk a lot about the differentiating factors of you and some of the other coffee shops. So when somebody asks, like, why pick you guys over a Starbucks or over another one? I mean, there's so many coffee shops that open up in every single town, but they're not able to expand the way that you guys have and really build that brand that you guys have. So what do you think are the main things that sets you guys apart from other coffee chains?
Yeah, it's no secret that you can get pretty good coffee from a lot of places these days.
No, you guys are the best.
Well, thank you. I think the difference is for us, we believe that the best cup of coffee is the one that comes to each person's taste. We've created a concept and a menu that allows us to personalize and customize the coffee to each person's taste. And the way we do it, and we use our secret recipe blends that Phil created, they're really delicious. So I think just the product is different and better. And I think those are the two key words. And this applies to any industry. It's not good enough to be different. You have to be different and better, ideally meaningfully better. And if you can create something that's different and better, you probably have a good chance at developing a business around it.
Yeah. And how far into your expansion did you guys decide to build the app? Because I personally actually went in, I was running to go to this podcast. I was like, let me go get the app, download it, and order from there instead of what I usually do, order in store. So when did you guys start that? And that was an experience in itself.
Yeah, well, I hope it was a good experience. And we developed the app probably, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. And I took a very focused approach in making sure, because it's not about the app, it's not about the technology, it's about the experience. And these are people who really want convenience and predictability so they can get their fills quickly. And we really wanted to make sure the experience felt akin to the experience in the store, human-centered, personalized. So, you can see the barista that's making your coffee. I think that was really important. But thank God we did, because during COVID, our whole business moved to mobile. Now we're kind of split, but it's been an amazing, investment, and more importantly, an amazing experience for people who just want to kind of get in and get out.
Yeah, it was so quick and easy. It was there when I got there. So we've been talking a lot about the success of Philz, but I want to kind of take another turn. And what has been your biggest challenges you faced running Philz Coffee, and how were you able to overcome that?
I think the biggest challenges, particularly early on, was that I had no formal education. I dropped out of school at a young age, but the thing I had was really good instincts because I was working in the business since I was 9 years old. So just doing that and getting a lot of reps in over the decades, you develop good people instincts, you develop good product instincts, and I think that was really important. But to grow the business, I didn't have that skill set. So I always was worried and paranoid. I didn't know what great looks like. I didn't know what it looked like. I needed examples. I needed mentors. I needed people who've been through the journey so I can make sure I'm doing it the right way. So having blind spots because you haven't done it before was something I was always worried about. And I tried the trick that I used, and it kind of helped, was whatever the challenges I thought I was going to face over the next 3 years, I found a few experts who've gone through that, and I talked to them early on so I can try to minimize the mistakes. With that said, I made mistakes, and some of the biggest mistakes were people related, I would say. You can get excited when you have something that's working, and there's a risk to that, which is diluting your focus because you want to try all these other things. So I think staying disciplined and focused was a challenge when success is coming at you, and making sure you're hiring the right people, and inevitably you're going to make a mistake. So firing the wrong people very quickly and doing it gracefully with respect, of course. But I think people mistakes, trying to do too many things, and then the other thing is just I'm obsessed with this idea of avoiding stupidity being more important than seeking brilliance. This is a quote from Charlie Munger, and it's amazing, which is like, you can get really far in life by just avoiding stupid stuff, stupid decisions. So, inverse thinking. So instead of thinking about how I can win or succeed, ask yourself, how could I fail? And just avoid those things. And you should be in pretty good shape.
That's so funny, because my next question was kind of about asking yourself, why you? I mean, there's so many people out there who are trying to build these coffee brands. And when you had, I guess, that imposter syndrome of like, can I do this? Like, I dropped out of community college to pursue this business passion. It's 5 years into having Philz Coffee. You haven't yet been able to expand. How did you kind of have the confidence within yourself to be like, wait, I could do this, and like, I am the person who could do this? So what did you tell yourself during those hard times?
It was interesting because I was ignorant to that, meaning I never questioned if I can do it. I always believed in myself that I could do it. Maybe I put blinders on and I just stayed focused. I can really get focused on something, and I'm very loyal by nature. My mom taught me that, so I'm loyal to what I'm working on. So I think it's probably that. A little bit of stupidity too, because there are a lot of times where things are not going well. But I think you really have to believe in yourself, but you also have to be humble and open-minded. And I love this concept of staying really firm on your values, but being flexible on how you get there. So there's this balance of being a little stubborn and just continuing to go at it, but making sure you're being open, so you can adjust and correct to get to where you want to go. Because there's a lot of paths to success. And it's okay if the path that you're on is not the right answer. You just need to recognize that and figure out how to adjust in the right way. So those are some thoughts on that.
Yeah, and given that you dropped out of normal college, and a lot of times nowadays people are discussing, they're like, why am I going to pay $250,000 to go get this education? Do you have any advice for young entrepreneurs who are really struggling to balance their passion with this traditional education that's really pushed on them through our culture?
I've thought about this a lot, and I don't know that I have one answer, because I think everybody's different and unique. I think what's true is that one of the biggest challenges is figuring out what you want in life, what you want to do. There's a lot of, I think I want this, but figuring that out. And the truth is, you kind of have to come up with it. Sometimes you get lucky and you meet that thing early on and you're like, I love food. I'm a chef. This is what I'm going to do. But not everybody has that. What I will say is that if you have a good idea of what you want to do, you should probably focus on that and prioritize that over everything else, even if that means you take a different route than traditional education. If you're not, so that's if you know what you want to do. If you're not sure what you want to do, you should expose yourself to a lot of different things and people so that you can find it. And you just pay attention to your energy and like, oh, let me lean in more. Oh, I don't like that. Let me spend less time on that. Oh, I like that. Let me lean into that. So I think it's a question of, do you know what you want or you don't know what you want? And I think depending on that, you take a different approach and path. But I think if you're not sure what you want, education could be a great way to build community and relationships. But you shouldn't think of it as you're stuck at it for the next 4 years. You should really think about it as, this is not about me getting a degree. This is about an experience that I want to have so I could narrow in on my superpower and what I want to do.
Do you ever regret it or feel like you missed out on this traditional education route?
Not one bit. I wouldn't do anything differently. If I could go back, I wouldn't do it because school is not your education. You got to think of education as a lifelong journey. You're always learning. You got to build a mindset of you're always learning. You're always curious. So it doesn't. School is just one way to learn stuff. I can go right now on YouTube and I can learn anything I want. That's another way to learn stuff. Yeah. I can go meet you for coffee and we could have a 2-hour conversation and I could learn so much from you. So,
which I hope we do.
Yes, absolutely. And learning could come in many, many forms. And I think you have to embrace learning and not, think about learning only in the form of school. That's a very limited way to think about learning. Learning comes in many, many forms. So you should everybody should be a lifelong learner. And if not, that's fine, but you might not get very far.
So I want to go back to Philz Coffee for a sec. So it started as a grocery store. Then you decide, okay, we're going to expand it into coffee. And then 5 years later, you expand it to being nationwide. Now, your dad started this. Was he ever like, Jacob, what are you talking about? We're a grocery store. I don't want to grow this into be like this national coffee shop. Like, what was that like working with your dad?
It's a good question. I think it's a blessing and it was challenging. On one end, there's your family. There's never a question of trust or intent. It's all love. It's all care. And that's beautiful. We have the same values. He taught me a lot. So we were always aligned on like treating people well, building a great business, making sure the product is done with quality. I will say my dad's old school and I'm new school, so I'll embrace new things. And that's sometimes where we would butt heads. And in the early days, I remember when I was like a teenager and I went out late one night and then I came and I showed up late at work. He screamed at me in front of customers and like, hey, what are you doing? Get out of here. Why are you coming late? And then he told me to come back right away, after that, because the line was super long. So there was moments like that of frustration, but it's amazing. It's a blessing more than anything, having the opportunity to work with your family.
And your family is actually from the Middle East. So did you take any kind of culture from the Middle East into Philz Coffee?
Oh, yeah. So my parents are both born in Palestine, and the culture there is so much about family, community, food. Every evening, people will get together over a table and share food, tea, conversations, gossip, talk. There's just no time. You just sit and you enjoy. Like, if you think about it, the coffee table is the original social network. And to me, that defines how we were brought up. Everything was around the table. And there's hospitality and love in grandma's house. Like, we brought this idea of grandma's house hospitality into Philz because when you go to grandma's house, she welcomes you with love, no judgment. She wants to feed you. Maybe she wants to give you money. She wants to make sure it's perfect for you. You know, it's done. Everything is done with a lot of love and authenticity. And it would be really nice when we were creating Philz and thinking about growing Philz is, you know, how do you create this magic of grandma's house environment inside of the store so people can feel like they're at home?
Yeah. And then you eventually decided to raise venture capital funding. So did this affect this kind of culture that you created of grandma's home? We're going to sit around to the want of expansion from all these venture capitalists.
No, I think we were very we're religious about our culture. And I think we wanted partners who believed in that. So that was really important. But, you know, we grew up in Silicon Valley. We didn't raise until we had about 13 stores. We were already kicking butt.
Yeah.
And we just thought, oh, you know what? We can raise our ambitions a little bit and grow a little bit quicker, you know, get a couple of systems in place so we can run a better organization, get some good advice. So then we just started, you know, we raised a few rounds of venture capital, and that helped us professionalize the company, you know, to hire the right people, put in the right processes. But from a cultural standpoint, we stayed religious about that, and that's going to be one of the most important things for us to continue to do as we grow.
Yeah. So before I get into you and what's next for you, what's next for Philz? Like, you guys are expanding so quickly. You have so many stores now, one being 1 block away from me. So what's next?
I think just getting better and bigger. You know, so just making sure we're treating our team really well, our customers really well, our business really well, and just giving Philz to more people. So opening hopefully up some more great stores and just doing a great job. Like I don't go to bed thinking like, oh, I need to have, you know, 1,000 locations. I think we just want to make sure we do a good job one store at a time and earn our success. And if we keep doing that, you know, over the next 100 years, we can still be a brand. We could be a brand that's still alive. And that's my personal goal. Is it would be really nice in 100 years from now if Philz was still thriving.
Yeah. So you were CEO for how many years?
We started at 17, and I'm 36 now. So 19, 20 years, something like that.
So how did you like ensure a good work-life balance, and how did you manage that? Because you're young, you're trying to grow this. Like, how did you do that?
Oh, there's no balance.
Come on, tell us the secret sauce.
No, there's no secret sauce. The secret sauce is there's trade-offs. You have to trade. There's trade-offs. And the good thing about being young and building a company is you can really dedicate all of your time. It's the right time to dedicate all of your time on something you're building or something you're working on, because you have the time. So that's what I did. But college, partying, you know, going out, having a big personal life, that was in the garbage. for a majority of my 20s.
Well, you said that you don't regret it, but I guess like looking back, were there specific moments that you remembered that you really missed out on because you had this work, and like life and personal life was kind of pushed to the side?
You know, no one ever forced me to do anything that I didn't want to do. My dad especially always supported me. If anything, told me to balance. He always gave me advice to balance my life. It's hard to say because if I took a different path, I would have had a different experience. Maybe it would have been better. Maybe it wouldn't have been. It's hard to answer, but where I sit today, I don't think I would do much differently, to be honest.
No, I mean, that's good to hear. And that's how it should be. I feel like if you're really passionate about something, some people say like, oh, you want to do it for the next 10 years, but you did it for 20 years. So you're even doubling that and really putting all your time.
Like gray hairs are developed. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. So now I want to get into it. So now you've taken a little step back from Phil, still the co-founder and chairman, but now you've started investing. So can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. So I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship, founders, building businesses, building culture, building products. So when I was running Philz, I would do some angel investments here and there, but I always loved it. It gave me so much great energy. So now, you know, aside from Philz, I'm spending my time. I built a holding company and it has 3 parts to it. One is investing and advising. primarily in the consumer space, but I could explain what that means because it's really broad. The next lane is buying companies, buying small businesses that are really wonderful, but maybe need some help, or there's a lot of untapped opportunity, and holding it. The idea is not to buy something, turn it, flip it and sell it. Owning the business for a really, really long time and just making it profitable, sustainable, and, nourishing the culture. So that's number two. And then the third is an incubation studio. So if we have an idea that hits us on the nose, where we have a lot of conviction, we'll start working on it. And if that idea gets traction, we turn it into a project. If that gets traction, we turn it into a business. If that gets traction, we put together a team, and it kind of lives on its own. So that's what I'm working on right now, and it's amazing because it's really exciting. It's bringing me a lot of joy. I've been able to meet hundreds and hundreds of founders just in the past couple of months, and just even if I'm not investing in something, just advising and helping, it brings me a lot of joy because I was fortunate to get that help when I started, when I didn't know what I was doing. So I love the idea of spending as much time as possible helping people.
And your calendar probably looks like mine, where you are taking meetings every single second of every single day now that you're investing. But
it's hard, yeah.
Yeah. So you grew Philz so successful. Are there specific qualities you have found in successful entrepreneurs that you have spoken to that ultimately you ensure that they have when you decide to invest?
Yeah, I think passionate about the problem or the opportunity. So there's a sincere drive. That's very important. Number one. Number two is sharp and energetic. What I mean by that is they understand it really well, and they know what they don't know, and they're looking to find the answer. And there's good energy, and integrity and honesty is really important. And I think this idea of young wisdom, right? So sometimes there are a lot of founders who are chasing momentum, which is natural and it's exciting and it makes sense. But when you're chasing momentum or you're chasing the next exciting thing, maybe perhaps that's not rooted in your, what you should probably be doing. So when I say young wisdom, I mean like they feel centered in what they're working on, and they don't feel like they need to go and pivot and, work on the next exciting thing. There's this focus, there's this calmness, there's energy, but there's calm. So those are some of the things I look at. And I'm very also focused on business savvy. So people who are very focused on building a great business, not having successful fundraising rounds. So I want to see a focus on sustainable, profitable cash flows as early on as possible, because you want to build a great business. You don't want to just have great fundraising rounds.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that, but CPG products are hard. And for those who don't know, consumer packaged goods could be anything from base products to food to even software that's for consumers. So the businesses are hard. Like, they are hard business models, and it's hard to really grow them, sustain them, and then ultimately get a liquidation event. So when you're looking at these companies and you're looking at the founders, now you talked about the qualities of the founders, how do you decide ultimately which companies to invest in?
It's a good question. So CPG is just actually an extremely small part of what I focus on. I'm actually more focused on, I say consumer investor, but I'm actually focused on products and services that power people, that are better, things that are a much better experience for people. So that can be consumer tech, that can be a food and beverage business, that can be a brick and mortar business, that can be, I'm channel agnostic. I'm more focused on what is the product and the service that you have and how does it add value to people. And it may not just be for consumers, it can be for a workforce, right? So it could be, a productivity software, it can be HR. I struggle with saying that I'm a consumer investor because people automatically think, CPGs, like that's a very that's a very small part of what I focus on. That's kind of what I try to look for. And if I don't understand it, here's the last thing I'll say. If I don't understand what the company or business does, if it's too hard for me to understand, I don't invest. Because if I can't explain it to a 5-year-old, or I can't add value, then I don't deserve to spend time on it. So just focus on this, on what you know, and stay in your lane.
And is there anything or any tips you have that's you've seen companies do to bring the product from 0 to 1, really that idea stage, to getting those first 10, 100 customers, especially in the consumer space?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to not sit behind a computer or behind a desk and just overthink stuff. It's to, you have an idea, you should go out right away and start talking to customers. I remember at Philz when we had an idea for a new drink, we don't have an innovation department inside of our office. We would go in the store, we'd make it. We're like, this tastes really good. 2 minutes later, we'd make it for all the customers in the store and say, hey, what do you think? What's the feedback? Do you like it? Do you not? And then we iterate. And that's the best way to go out and build a consumer company, is to talk to your customers and, try to do spend the least amount of energy and money on building something that's good enough to go out and start getting feedback on, and then iterate. I think that is the best way to do stuff in my experience.
I 100% agree. I also think too many times nowadays, people don't build in public. They're like, build in private and stealth, and they come out and it's like, well, how do you know it's a good product? You've been building it quietly forever. You should have started out. And I agree, like, get the customers, get feedback. Like, people are there to help you, to give you feedback, to help you grow. Do you see yourself starting another product? I know obviously you have the investing arm, the acquiring arm, and then also the incubator, but do you yourself want to do one, or now do you just want to help other founders and CEOs?
So there's no shortage of ideas in my head, but I'm much more passionate about matching a great idea with the right person and architecting a company around that. Matching great ideas with great people and helping them flourish. I love that. But yes, I think there's a couple of ideas that we're working on. I wouldn't say launching, but getting real customers to try out and see, and hopefully they work out. And if they do, you'll know about them soon.
That's interesting what you said though, where it's like there's all these ideas and you really have to match the people with the idea. But I guess from an entrepreneurial perspective, how do you know if like you're that person who could be the successful one taking that idea out into the world?
Yeah, for me personally, I don't know that I want to go out and focus on just one company and become, the CEO and grow it again. Who knows? But I like much more working and collaborating with people. How does one know? That's a tough question. I don't know. If you're the one building something, you're probably, and you're really passionate about it, there's probably a good start, But for me, it's I guess I have good experience recruiting, like spending time. I've interviewed a lot of people in my life, so I have pretty good judgment on people. But it's hard. I will say it's quite difficult to if there's a great idea, now we got to find a great person to run it. That's very difficult. It's very hard. I don't have the answer there. If I met 10 people, I can probably give you some feedback on why I think one might be better than the other, but that's hard.
I want to jump into that though, because that's important too, especially with a startup. I mean, your people is all you have. So you've obviously said that you interviewed the first 500 people. Now you're at 1,000. Were there specific qualities you look for in individuals, either in the coffee business or that translate to every other business when you're first looking for those first employees?
Yeah, so I developed a framework because it got too hard to do on my own. And the framework, it's called the CCE framework. So character, competence, and experience. Character is the person's values, their personality, what they're passionate about, what they care about. What are the things that they would fight for? Like if you love hospitality so much, like, oh, you're so passionate about hospitality, like, that would fit in the character bucket. Then there's the competence. So competence is what you're really, really good at. It's your superpowers, right? So maybe you're a great executor in project management, you're great there. Maybe you're a great communicator. Maybe you're a great ideator. Maybe you're a great builder. So what is the superpower? And then the last thing is experience. So that's like the resume, what's on people's resumes. And it's funny because a lot of people assume what's on someone's resume is related to their competence. But just because someone has 10 years being in PR for a company, it doesn't mean that they are default high competence in PR. So I think what you got to do when you're talking to people is focus on the first two C's, character and competence, and really get a good sense of what that looks like and if that matches up with the needs. And I will say, an formal interview is not the most effective way to get there. Instead, getting to know the person is the best way to get there through two-way conversation in different settings, in different environments. So when you're interviewing people, you got to think about it that this is a conversation between two people. We're trying to see if there's something there. Maybe there isn't. And we want to put our shoulders down and relax and just talk about things, just talk about things. And I think that's the best way.
I like that. You could also teach anybody, but you have to be able to talk to them, especially in your business. I mean, they're talking to people all day, and it's like you have to be able to talk to people to communicate, have a conversation. Is there any questions that you always ask people that you are interviewing?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have one magic question. My interviewing approach is very contextual and organic and natural. I guess one question I usually always ask is, what are you really good at and what are you not really good at? And then I try to get very deep on certain things. So if somebody, said they did X, Y, Z, I kind of want to go back and pretend I was a fly on the wall during that whole journey to see how they, talk about it. It's like, okay, let's, tell me more about that. Let's go into it. The other thing I like to do is actually share a relevant and recent problem I'm facing and how they react to it. The best people will just give you good energy, give you good thoughts. The absolute best people follow up the next day saying, I've thought about this some more. Here's what I'm thinking about. Yeah. So those are really exceptional people when you come across people like that.
I like that. All right, let's hear it. What's challenging you right now?
I would say time, focus, time and focus.
Oh God, I wish I could help you. If you look at my Twitter, every single thing is, I don't have enough time in the day. What do I do with my time? It's a hard one.
It's hard. Yes, it is. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Awesome, Jacob. Well, you've given so much information. I want to end with, do you have any final piece of advice for either entrepreneurs or investors or people just trying to figure out their way in the space?
Okay, so I've thought about this a lot as well, and this is the way I like to live my life. So there's two columns. One is what gives you energy, and the other is what eats your energy. And in life, whether it's things or people, spend less time on things and people that eat your energy and more time on things and people that give you energy. So stay aware of how you're feeling after things and say, oh, I want to do more of that, or I want to do less of that. That's been amazing. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. So you just don't want to waste your life on crap. You want to spend it on good stuff.
That's something that's kind of been in my goal book for 2023, where I was spending time with a lot of people who did the exact thing of what I didn't want. They would take all my energy. I'd go out. I'd feel tired. I'm like, these conversations, I'm so career driven and focused. We're just like talking about drama and boys. And I completely switched my friend group. I have so much more energy when I'm with those people. And it just like changes the way you view things and the way you feel too. So I agree with that.
100%. You're absolutely right. I'm aligned with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jacob, for joining the Girls Table. If anybody would like to connect with Jacob, please visit their Twitter at Jacob Jabber. Is there anywhere else people could find you?
Twitter's the best. LinkedIn, Twitter, Jacob Jabber, my full name. That's the tag. So I probably just do Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. And I'm so excited to continue watch you grow and also drink all your coffee. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.